Okay, let's set the scene. Picture this. It's 2017, crypto is bubbling up, and Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JPMorgan Chase.
The absolute titan of finance.
Exactly. He comes out swinging, calls Bitcoin a fraud, just flat out.
Yeah, I remember that. He even said he'd fire any trader caught messing with it, called them stupid.
It was really a line in the sand moment, wasn't it? Summed up that whole Wall Street skepticism, even hostility.
Totally. Traditional finance versus the disruptors.
But fast forward, less than 7 years. And that same bank, JPMorgan, well, things look a bit different.
A lot different. Now they're processing billions, literally billions, using blockchain tech.
And they've got their own digital currency, JPM coin. Plus, they're offering Bitcoin and Ethereum funds to their top-tier clients, the really wealthy ones.
It's a massive reversal. You can't really call it anything else.
So that's what we're digging into today. We want to unpack that pivot.
And just to be clear, our focus isn't on, should you buy Bitcoin? It's about the strategy.
Right. We're looking at this as a cold, hard business decision by JPMorgan. A calculated move to, absorb this crypto tech, use its benefits, but crucially, keep control.
Assimilate, not capitulate.
Exactly. And the real tension here, something for you to think about as you listen, is this idea of disintermediation.
Yes, the original crypto promise. Cut out the middleman, the banks.
But JPM's strategy, it seems designed to avoid being cut out, to actually become the new middleman, just using fancier tech.
Building the new toll roads, essentially.
Yeah. So this story really explains why these huge banks couldn't ignore blockchain, and maybe more importantly, how they're trying to reshape the whole game by building their own sort of private digital world.
Okay, so where do we start? The motivation.
Let's do it. What pushed them? What was the threat or the opportunity that was big enough to make the world's biggest, maybe most conservative bank jump in?
Well, stripping away all the, the noise about crypto culture, it came down to pure business logic. Numbers.
Not a change of heart then. No crypto conversion moment in the boardroom.
Hardly. It was strategy. When they looked at it cold, the risks of not engaging started to look way bigger than the risks of getting involved, albeit carefully. Irrelevance is the ultimate risk for an institution like that.
Okay, so let's break down those strategic drivers. What was number one on the list? The absolute must-do.
Existential defense. That had to be it.
Meaning
they saw the potential. If these decentralized systems built by others actually became faster, cheaper, more efficient, well, eventually, the bank itself could be sidelined, completely bypassed.
The intermediary gets disintermediated.
Precisely. So the thinking shifted. If we can't stop this wave, we need to surf it. Better yet, we need to build the best surfboard and lead the way, at least for the corporate world.
Join the platoon, but make sure you're leading it.
Something like that. It's defensive, yes, but also kind of offensive. Co-opt the disruption.
But isn't that the contradiction? If the whole point was to get rid of gatekeepers, and JPM responds by building its own gates, just digital ones, isn't that defeating the purpose?
That's the fundamental tension, absolutely. But from JPM's perspective, the second objective makes ignoring it impossible. Brutal operational efficiency.
Okay, efficiency. Tell me more.
Look, the way money and assets move around the world right now, it's ancient. Clearinghouses, correspondent banks, cross-border payments, using systems like SWIFT. It's slow, it's clunky, it involves a lot of steps, and it's expensive.
Especially at their scale.
Exactly. We're talking trillions of dollars in transactions. If they could use blockchain to shave off even, say, 1% of the cost or time from settling securities or issuing bonds or moving money internationally,
that 1% translates into
hundreds of millions, easily. Recurring savings year after year. Blockchain just looked like the best tool for that kind of deep automation and streamlining.
Okay, that kind of saving. Oh yeah, you can't ignore that. Makes the investment seem almost necessary. What about bringing in new money, new revenue?
That's number 3, capture new demand. This wasn't just about saving money. It was about making money and keeping clients happy.
Their big clients were asking for crypto.
Their most valuable clients, hedge funds, big asset managers, wealthy family offices. They started seeing digital assets as a legitimate, well, maybe speculative, but potentially lucrative new asset class. They wanted exposure.
And if JPM says no,
then those clients and all the fees and commissions they generate just walk. They go to a competitor, maybe a Fidelity or a BlackRock, who's willing to facilitate it. Losing that kind of market share, that's simply not an option for JPMorgan.
So defend your existence, cut costs massively, and keep your richest clients happy by giving them what they want. Makes sense. And the fourth objective, that seems to address their initial fears, the fraud comment.
Right. It's all about controlled innovation. This is key. They wanted the benefits of blockchain, the speed, the efficiency, the programmability, without the parts they hated.
Which were?
The volatility of things like Bitcoin, the anonymity, the lack of central control, the regulatory uncertainty of those public open source chains.
So they decided to build their own version.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Proprietary, permissioned blockchain technology. Onyx is the prime example. This way, they get the efficiency gains, but they set the rules. They control who participates. They ensure it complies with the regulations from day one. It's innovation, but strictly within their own controlled sandbox.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical. The how. They didn't just dabble. They built, as you said, a whole private digital road network. So what are the actual pillars holding this strategy up?
Yeah, they've built a pretty comprehensive structure. It really rests on 4 interconnected pillars, all designed for that controlled environment we talked about.
Pillar 1 must be the foundation, right? Onyx, you mentioned it. That's their private blockchain platform, their walled garden.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
Onyx is JPM's dedicated permissioned blockchain. And they made a very deliberate choice not to build their core stuff on public chains like Ethereum or Bitcoin.
Why permission? Why keep it closed?
Control, 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 and performance. Being permissioned means only pre-approved players. Other banks, specific corporate clients, their own internal divisions can join the network or even see the transactions.
And the benefits of that closed system are?
Speed, for one. They
Yeah.
can achieve transaction speeds thousands per second that public chains, at least currently, can't really match reliably. Privacy is huge for institutions dealing with sensitive high-value trades, no broadcasting transactions to the world,
Right.
and, critically, compliance. They can build regulatory checks right into the system's rules. It's basically the blueprint for a corporate blockchain standard.
Okay, so Onyx is the private road network. What's driving on it? That brings us to Pillar 2, JPM coin. And we need to stress again, this isn't crypto like Bitcoin, right? You can't buy a latte with it.
Absolutely crucial distinction. JPM coin is a stable coin, specifically a 1-to-1 US dollar-backed stable coin. Every JPM coin in existence corresponds to a real dollar held in reserve by the bank.
So its value doesn't fluctuate wildly.
Nope. Its purpose is purely functional. It's digital cash for wholesale use. Think large-scale payments between JPM's own divisions or between JPM and its major corporate clients.
And the big advantage is speed.
Instantaneous settlement. Instead of waiting hours or days for traditional wire transfers or international payments to clear,
Especially across borders.
especially across borders, JPM coin allows value to move and settle in real time 24/7.
And this is meant to replace or bypass something existing.
It directly bypasses the traditional SWIFT messaging system for coordinating those international bank payments. SWIFT is like the decades-old postal service for bank messages. JPM coin is like the instant digital transfer.
And it's not just theoretical, it's being used.
Oh yeah, reports indicate it's already handling over $1 billion in transactions daily. This isn't a pilot project anymore, it's scaling up for industrial use.
$1 billion a day. Okay, now, Pillar 3. This one sounds potentially even bigger. Tokenization of everything. What exactly does that mean in practice?
Tokenization is basically creating a digital representation, a token, of a real-world asset on the blockchain. Think of things like bonds, stocks, real estate, shares in an investment fund, even more exotic things.
Okay, so you turn a bond into a digital token. Why? What's the benefit?
2 massive benefits jump out immediately. First, again, settlement speed. Buying or selling that tokenized bond can happen in minutes, maybe seconds, instead of days it currently takes for traditional settlement cycles. T+2 becomes T+0, effectively.
Wow, okay.
Second, fractionalization. You can easily divide these digital tokens into tiny pieces. So imagine owning like 0.01% of a commercial building, represented by a token you can trade easily. It brings liquidity to traditionally illiquid assets.
That does sound revolutionary, almost futuristic. Is there a concrete example showing they can actually do this complex stuff?
Definitely. They love to showcase this one. In 2021, JPM executed what they called the world's first financial transaction in space using this
Go to space! Seriously?
Yep. They tokenized shares in a fund to handle the financing and settlement related to putting a satellite into orbit. It was a proof of concept, sure, but it showed the system could handle complex, novel asset types and transactions digitally.
Okay, that's more than just theory.
And now they're working with giants like BlackRock to apply this tokenization concept to huge mainstream markets, like money market funds and potentially even treasury bonds. That's where the real scale could happen.
So, private blockchain, Digital dollar for institutions, tokenizing real assets. What's Pillar 4? It seems like they still have to acknowledge the public crypto world exists.
They do. Pillar 4 is their way of cautiously participating in those public markets, mainly Bitcoin and Ethereum, but without taking on the direct risk themselves.
How do they manage that?
They offer access to crypto, specifically Bitcoin and Ethereum funds, but only to their private banking clients, the very wealthy ones again. And crucially, they do it through regulated third-party partners. Think companies like Coinbase or NYDIG.
So JPM isn't holding the Bitcoin themselves.
Exactly. The partner handles the custody, the trading, the compliance headaches associated with the raw assets. JPM meets the client demand, earns a fee for facilitating access, but keeps its own balance sheet clean from direct exposure to the operational and regulatory complexities of public crypto assets. It's about managing risk while still capturing the opportunity.
Okay, so we have these 4 pillars: Onyx, JPM coin, tokenization, and careful third-party access to public crypto. If we step back now and look at the big picture, what does this whole strategy tell us about where finance might be heading?
It tells us quite a lot, actually. I think there are 4 main takeaways, 4 big trends it confirms.
Good to hear them.
First, it hammers home that pragmatism triumphs over ideology in the institutional world. Meaning, JPMorgan doesn't care about the cypherpunk dream of decentralization for its own sake. They're not crypto believers in that sense.
Yeah.
They looked at the technology, saw potential for efficiency, profit, and control, and decided to shape it to fit their existing business model and regulatory constraints. Utility won out over philosophy.
Okay, pragmatic adoption. What's next? What does it say about the shape of the future crypto landscape? Is it all going to be private corporate chains?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And JPM's strategy actually confirms this. It points towards an ecosystem bifurcation.
Bifurcation, like splitting in 2.
Exactly. We're seeing the clear emergence of 2 parallel crypto universes. On one side, you have the private, permissioned, highly regulated walled gardens like Onyx, built for big institutions. On the other side, you still have the open, permissionless public ecosystems, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others.
And they'll just coexist.
Yeah, it looks like it. They'll serve different purposes, different users. It's not going to be one winner takes all. JPM is building the institutional layer, but that doesn't mean the public layer disappears.
That makes sense. But still, when the biggest bank in the U.S. throws this much weight, billions of dollars, dedicated divisions like Onyx behind blockchain tech, that has to count for something, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's the third takeaway, ultimate validation.
Validation for the tech itself.
Precisely. Forget the price swings of Bitcoin for a moment. When an institution like JPMorgan, known for being conservative and risk-averse, invests this heavily, it fundamentally legitimizes the underlying blockchain technology. It moves it definitively beyond the perception of being just some, hacker toy or niche experiment.
It signals that this is serious industrial-grade technology for the future of finance and commerce.
Exactly. It provides powerful institutional cover for others to get involved too.
And the final takeaway. Let's circle back to that original threat, disintermediation. Does JPM's strategy mean the banks win, that they can't be cut out?
It suggests that the bank, the intermediary, isn't necessarily disappearing. Instead, the intermediary is being reinvented. JPM isn't fighting the technology anymore. They're using it to reposition themselves. They aim to be the architects, the rule makers, the trusted guardians of this new tokenized financial system. They're building the new digital plumbing and ensuring they're the ones controlling the valves and, yes, collecting the tolls. The form changes, but the function as a central, trusted intermediary remains, perhaps even stronger in some ways.
So the bank evolves rather than dissolves.
That seems to be the bet they're making.
Okay, that paints a picture of a very deliberate, powerful strategy. But it can't all be smooth sailing. They've built this impressive machine. But what are the big hurdles? What could stop this from reaching the massive scale they envision?
Oh, there are definitely significant challenges ahead. Big ones.
What's top of the list?
Without a doubt, the regulatory labyrinth, especially in the U.S.
Still unclear rules.
Massively unclear. The technology is moving way faster than the regulations. Key bodies like the SEC haven't provided definitive frameworks for things like tokenized assets or even the status of certain stablecoins. This ambiguity creates huge operational risk for a regulated entity like JPM.
So they have to tread very carefully.
Extremely carefully. Every new product, every expansion has to be weighed against potential regulatory blowback. It forces them to be cautious, potentially slower than they'd like. And the rules differ significantly across countries too, which complicates global rollout.
Okay, regulation is the big external break. What about internal or technical challenges? They built this walled garden, Onyx. Does a garden become useful if it can't connect to anything outside?
That's the next huge one. Interoperability. It's a massive technical and, frankly, political challenge.
Connecting their private system to others?
Yes. How does JPM's Onyx system talk to, say, a similar private blockchain built by Goldman Sachs or Deutsche Bank? How do these private institutional systems interact safely and efficiently with each other and potentially even with the public blockchains like Ethereum when needed?
Sounds complicated.
It is. You need common standards, shared protocols, agreements on governance. It's not just tech. It's getting fierce competitors to cooperate on infrastructure. Projects like Chainlink or CCIP are working on this bridging technology, but it's a monumental task to achieve seamless interoperability across the entire financial system.
So, regulatory hurdles, getting the tech to talk to each other. What about good old-fashioned competition? Are they the only ones doing this?
Not by a long shot. That's the competition challenge. JPM has scale and existing client relationships, which are huge advantages. But they're facing intense pressure from two sides.
Which are
Other financial giants, think BlackRock, Fidelity, State Street. They're all investing heavily in digital assets and tokenization too. They have similar resources and ambitions. And then there are the more agile, crypto-native or fintech companies.
like Ripple or Consensus?
Exactly. Companies purely focused on this tech. They don't have the legacy systems or the same regulatory overhead as a giant universal bank like JPM. They can often innovate and deploy faster. So JPM has the size, but maybe not always the speed.
That makes sense. Size can be an advantage and a disadvantage. And lastly, for this whole vision to work JPM coin, tokenization, they need others to actually use it, right?
That's the final piece, mass adoption. It's the network effect problem.
They need critical mass.
Precisely. JPM coin is great, but it only reaches its full potential if thousands of corporations and dozens of other banks integrate it into their payment flows. Tokenization is revolutionary, but only if enough assets are tokenized and enough participants trade them on JPMs or compatible platforms.
So they need to convince the market.
They need to convince a huge swath of the global financial industry to ditch old habits and systems and migrate onto these new JPM-influenced rails. That's a massive undertaking. Part sales, part technical integration, part proving their system is truly better, safer, and more efficient.
So wrapping this all up, what's the main takeaway for you listening to this? It seems JPMorgan Chase isn't some dinosaur waiting for the crypto meteor.
Not at all. Think of them more as a very old, very powerful predator that's learned to use some incredibly sharp, new, technologically advanced tools.
They're not betting the farm on Bitcoin going to the moon.
No. They're building the underlying infrastructure, the plumbing, the rails for a new era of corporate finance, and they fully intend to be in control of those rails. They're redefining what it means to be a bank in the digital age.
They took the threat of decentralization, sort of absorbed its useful parts, refined them for institutional use, and are now trying to turn it into their next competitive advantage.
That's a good summary. They're domesticating the wild parts of crypto for their own purposes.
Which leaves us with a final, pretty big question to ponder, doesn't it? The original crypto dream was radical transformation, maybe even revolution, of the financial system.
Right. Power to the edges, less reliance on central authorities.
So the question for you to think about is, will JPM's very calculated, very corporate strategy succeed in just taming this crypto revolution, fitting it neatly into their existing power structure? Or is the underlying technology, this decentralized, transparent, programmable value layer, so fundamentally different that it will inevitably over time transform the very nature, the culture, the core essence of a behemoth like JPMorgan itself?
Will the institution change the tech, or will the tech ultimately change the institution? That's the long game to watch.